Hello again, guys, and welcome back to another review here at Z.M.S.C. Modelworks. My name is Zach, and today we're going to be looking at these guys, the Uschi Van der Rosen metal polishing powders. They come in three colors right now. They have a chrome, an iron, and a steel type finish. And this is going to be showing you guys how to use these guys and how to apply them. This is kind of in a response to pictures I put up on the Scale Modelers Critique group in reference to this guy, our F15E Strike Eagle, and the exhaust here, which has been done in all the powders. So, for instance, here I use some of the iron type. Inside here we use the chrome, and then the steel, and then some parts down here we used the chrome. Again, down in here. So it kind of gives a nice variation to the finish. These guys are essentially like almost fingerprint proof, and I've also put tape down on here, and it doesn't peel up. So just to demonstrate that on bare plastic, I've got to fix a little mark of paint here that I ended up having. That's not from the polish at all. But basically, these are quite durable, and we're just going to go ahead and demonstrate its full capabilities to you guys. Now, just to note, I was not paid for these. I was not given them. I paid for them with my own money. So this is basically just a straight review of my own thoughts about these. So basically what we're going to come in and do is, with a piece of styrene sheet here, we're going to go ahead and paint a gloss black layer with some Tamiya X1. So we're going to thin this 50-50 with Mr. Leveling Thinner, and then we'll go ahead and paint that up and then bring it back to you guys. Alright, so we're back. We've got our piece painted up here. So we're going to start off with the iron type powder first. Now normally you can just use makeup applicators. I've got these ones here. They're just like the throwaway ones. Once you're done, you can use, I just reuse them over and over again. But what you also can use here is these silicone type applicators, which you just wash off and you can reuse again. So, and I find these ones also give a better sort of polished look to it. If you want a little bit of a satin worn finish, just stick with the pads or the applicators. But for this one, we're going to use silicone tips. So we're going to use our iron type first. These bottles are quite small, but you really only need just a very, very tiny amount. And so just the smallest amount on here, and then we're basically going to work any semicircle type pattern. Just to get these on. What I might do is just go in with the bigger kind of brush just to get more on. Again, we're not scooping a whole bunch, we're just tapping it on the powder, knocking off the excess on the sides. And then going in on the piece. So we'll go ahead and fill out all of the panels here with the three various powders. So we'll have the iron, we'll have the chrome, and then we'll have the steel. So we'll come back when these are all filled in and ready to go. Alright, so here we go, guys. So we've got our three colors on. We've got the iron, the chrome, and the steel. Just one thing to note here, you can see two fingerprints and a little blob. Those were from the paint. I didn't carefully handle it afterwards. That's the really main thing with a lot of these polishing powders is the base paint is what's going to give you your finish. So any sort of oil, hairs, dust, anything on the paint before you put these powders on is going to severely affect the outcome of the paint, like the finish. So you know, these little light fingerprints that I didn't see before I started, that's now shown up in the finish. But the fingerprints that we had here on the iron type before we started, those are non-existent, so those are gone. What I've done here on each piece is the leftmost half of the piece, I've gone and really polished it with the microfiber cloth, and the right side I applied the powder and I rubbed it in. I didn't go ahead and polish it, but I rubbed it in and got it to where it you know, there was no excess powder coming off, and there wasn't any residue after you know, I swiped my finger down. So on each left hand portion of each piece, I've gone ahead and polished these up. So essentially what we're going to do now is we're going to take our tape off here. And we'll go ahead and do our durability tests. So now I'm a bit of a toaster oven, so I get, when my hands are in gloves, they get hot and they get sweaty. So you know, there's some hot sweaty hands, and they're basically just gonna just press all over this, and you know, Okay. So as you can see there's quite a bit of, you know, grease and sweat and residue on it. But all we have to do with that is come in with a cloth, and it just comes right off. So it doesn't stay on the actual pigments, it doesn't work itself in, and it doesn't stick and not able to come out. And so just a matter of polishing that up to clean it. And even just, you know, a basic kind of fingerprint doesn't really make a mark in there at all. Just nice. And then especially useful is when, you know, we say we come in with just a standard piece of Tamiya tape. We'll go ahead and cut that with the blade. Put the blade away. Go safety first. I'm going to try and get this to not stick down right away, because we're basically going to take the tape, we're going to put it down, on each piece, like so. You know, as if we were taping over just blank paint. Again, this is just over a gloss black, a Tamiya X1 gloss black base. There hasn't really been anything added to it. You know, when we take our tape up, and we're just gonna rip it. As you can see here, there's no residue. And there's nothing from the tape. Nothing peeled up, nothing. Yeah, same with the chrome. No residue on the tape. No effect on here. Good. No residue on the tape. And nothing on the piece. So with that out of the way, we're going to kind of move on to the next kind of durability test. Now these are just regular handling tests, you know, if you're moving the model around. Of course, as always, you want to take your time and be careful, you know, when around the metallic surfaces, just to make sure you don't bump it or scrape it. You know, these guys do, if I try really hard, it will scrape through the paint, and it will scrape into the finish. And then with that, you're going to want to start over, kind of sand the area down a bit, reapply the gloss, and then go in ahead and reapply the powders. So making sure you have a nice glass-like finish is going to be imperative to using these guys. So with that in mind, we're going to come in and do something a little bit different, and we're going to try a couple paints on it. So we're going to start off with, you know, something that's, you know, a basic hobbyist's sort of go-to thing is a panel line wash. And we've got the black one here from Tamiya. It's all nicely mixed up in there. So we're going to basically go ahead and apply this in the top portion of here. So we're going to take a dollop, and we'll just do a squiggle. Another squiggle. And another squiggle. Just to apply that on there. And this will kind of tell us if we really need to gloss this and clear it before we go ahead and apply something like those finishes. So we've got our oil brushers here, and we're going to go ahead and make some dots. Just something that really stands out. Kind of work these in a little bit. Okay. And then with our oil brushers, we have enameless odor thinners, or enamel odorless thinners here. And find a nice brush. And we have some paper towel below us. We can grab as well. I'll just let those guys dry for a bit while I find paper towel. Okay, so we're just going to start to move these oils around. blot them around. No, there's no, I don't see any of the oils lifting. Are any of the powders coming out? No, well, might be doing it here. Or is that just polishing? Kind of looks like if I go really hard at it, then the powders do start to come up, and I can see it in the oil brushes there. But if we're not really going ham with this, we'll just try streaking it a bit. You know, if we're doing light streaking, you know, it's not really coming off when we just do regular streaks. And that's just the same with all of them. As if you're lightly going at the surface with oils, then it doesn't pick up or move the oils at all, which is interesting. But if we really go at it, like say we'll just take some odorless thinner here and go into the chrome, you know, if we constantly kind of work at this, even with the odorless thinners, it's not really, to be honest, I don't know whether that's just micro polishing that or if it's actually lifting it off. So we'll just kind of clean that off there. Yeah, and it does look like it's just lifting it off. So same case, any thinners will really pull that off. So our X20, or sorry, our Tamiya panel line wash is dry, and the recommended cure for the Tamiya panel line washes is X20A thinner. So we'll just take a earbud, cotton stick, cotton bud, whatever you want to call it, and we're going to go ahead and clean this off. Yeah, and right away that's eating through that. Let's try with the dry one. See if we can kind of lightly rub it off. And it's not coming off when we rub it. What this looks like it's done is it looks like the enamel's penetrated the main surface here of the powders, because it really is nothing, it's just a powder, and it's permeated the X1 below and basically made it impossible to get off without sanding that. So you know what, let's try, see what happens when we throw some lacquers down on it. we just take some lacquer thinner here, some tinny stuff, we'll clean off our brush. Yeah, that goes right through it. So what I'm thinking here is that these guys have some sort of an acrylic binder in them, which makes them impervious to, a lacquer binder or a solvent binder in it, which makes it impervious to wet, so water-based things. So if you had like a water-based wash, like the Flory washes or the gunk washes, that sort of thing, or clay washes, pastels, those aren't really going to affect them at all. It only becomes when you add something like an enamel or a lacquer, which basically defeats it entirely. So if you are going, but if we're lightly doing some streaking, you know, with these oils, right, where we see we haven't really pulled anything up at all, then my guess there is that if we're going lightly with some enamel odorless thinners, then essentially we could just you know, use an oil wash or something similar to directly on top of this stuff and directly on top of the X1. So I mean, if we try, you know, if we do like say an oil wash and we cover the whole thing in oil and we want to rub that all off, you know, and it hasn't affected it underneath it all. It's just getting off from the top layer. If we really want to wop that off. Yeah. I mean, it's pulling some of it, but that's kind of really, going at it. And then it pulls out the powder, but it doesn't affect the X1 underneath. So, anyways, that's our interesting little tidbit there. A little experiment as it was to see how well these things hold up to the more extreme conditions associated in the hobby. But you know, if you guys are looking for, you know, a good, nice, varied kind of metal finish, either on, you know, your exhausts or metal struts, that sort of thing, and especially, you know, the exhausts on aircraft like those flankers and the Eagles, I'd recommend these things. They're super easy to use. They've got a really nice finish on them. Basically, the more you polish them, the better the shine gets. And you know, if you want to just leave it as sort of a distress type look, like we had on the right hand portions here, you can do that too. So that's our review here of the Uschi Van der Rosen metal polishing powders here at Z.M.S.C Model Works. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.